Okie dokie. Looks like it's actually working. Maybe. Possibly. We will see. All right. Looks like it's switching over and doing what it's supposed to do. So that's a good thing. All right. All right. So, um, for anybody joining in, which obviously there's nobody here yet, but anyway, anybody watching this recording later, welcome. And I'm Cobra Viper, otherwise known as Professor Miller. But anyway, um, I am going to be doing art nights on Sunday nights. So if you'd like to join in, hang out, do some uh, art stuff. All right. So, anywho, um, this specific stream is mainly for my students that missed the recording the other day. So, this will be Photoshop basics. Um, so, yeah. All right. So, to begin, obviously create a new file and have it pop up on your other monitor. There we go. All right. So, uh, most of the time, I start with an 11 by 17 because being a comic book illustrator, most of the time 11 by 17 is kind of the way to go. All right, so you can name your piece up here. I'm just going to call this Doodles. And 11 by 17, obviously you can switch that from inches to pixels, centimeters, etc. But for now, just stay with inches. Okay, you can pick your orientation, obviously. You can include the artboards, which don't worry about that. 300 DPI is usually about what I go for. Just remember, like, uh, if I choose an 11 by 17 and it's set to only 72 DPI, it's going to be grainy to begin with. And then if I need to enlarge that, like say I want to make this into a poster, there is no way that that's going to look good. So we want to usually keep it around 300, and that will keep the hello on screen keyboard. Um, that will make sure that this is nice and tight. And you can enlarge it a little bit. Now, if I set this up as 11 by 17, 300, and then I want to enlarge it to be the size of a building, well, that's going to be, yeah, that's not going to work out too well. So anyway, when choosing your size and resolution, just make sure that you know if you create it at the size that you actually want at 300 DPI, then you can enlarge it or reduce it a little bit on each side of that um, without too much problem. But anyway, so I'm going to go 11 by 17. All right. And then obviously for those of you that are not in my classes, we did not talk about this, but those of you that are in my classes, um, RGB. RGB is, if you're preparing a piece that is only going to be seen on screen, like for film, TV, web, phone, tablet, etc., then RGB is fine. If it's going to be printed, like for your portfolio or, in this case, comic book artwork, it's going to be printed. So when it's going to be printed, we want to use CMYK. Usually I keep the background white. Don't worry about the color profiles. Oh, excuse me. The color profiles right now. And then we just hit create. All right. So just as I normally do, um, I am going to demonstrate the tools by actually doing something. Okay, so if you have this little weird toolbar thing that keeps popping up, which I really do not like it. Windows contextual taskbar. Just click that off. I do not like that thing. Call me old if you want to, but I don't like it. There we go. All right. So basics. Um, yeah. Normally I don't go, window by window and button by button. So, like I said, just going to kind of jump into it here. So we've created a blank canvas. Next thing to kind of know is how do you move around the canvas? Okay, well, you can use Control plus and Control minus to zoom in and out. Okay. Now let's say you zoom in and well, hold on. Let me do a little something here. I'll show you how to create a new layer here in a minute. All right. So let's say I'm drawing something in here. All right. So I'm not going to get super crazy here, but let's say, you rough out your drawing while you're zoomed out, right? Now you want to go back in and man, that's really off. Um, yeah, so let's say you want to go back in and refine this, right? So you need to zoom in. Well, that's where Control plus and Control minus, and then obviously, here I am, I'm drawing my thing. I zoom in and I'm like all the way down here. Well, what if I want to draw the face, right? So how did I do that? Okay, well, you hold down the space bar and that is how we pan. Okay. So then I could come in here and I don't know, add that in there. Everybody becomes Spidey at some point. All right. So that's how you navigate the canvas. So we zoom in and zoom out, Control plus, Control minus, and space bar. Okay. Now you can rotate as well. So there's a few ways to do that. So where did it go? Well, if you transform rotate, this is only for the layer itself, not for the canvas. There we go. Image rotation. So here you can, anytime you're editing something on a layer, you're going to go to the edit. Anytime you're editing something that is kind of global, then it's going to be over here in the image. Though adjustments is layer based. Mode is a global. This will affect your entire piece. These will only affect layers. Those are layers. All that's kind of global. So, all right. Anyway, image rotation. So if I go arbitrary, the this little pop-up will pop up, and then we can enter an angle. So you could go 15 or whatever, which isn't really going to be great, but it is what it is. All right, let me think. All right. Okay, Shift R will also initiate that rotate. Okay. Now, the only problem is if you rotate this, make sure that you know which way's up. Which once you actually have something drawn on there, it won't be as hard to tell which way's up. But if you look up here at the rotation angle, it'll also tell you. So it'll tell you that you're at 120 or negative 120 or whatever, and you can take that back to 0 and you'll be good. All right. So let's see. That's zooming in and out, panning. Let's see, and rotating. All right. So layers, probably the next thing to talk about. All right, so let me do that. All right, so over here, this little guy, you got layers, channels, paths. Not going to talk about these right now, but layers, okay? So, also, um, for anybody that is not a part of my class, uh, I will be stopping this at a certain point because that's where my actual real world classes stopped. So as far as instruction part, um, that's yeah, that's as much as will be covered today. Anyway, okay, so layers. You got your background layer. It has this little lock icon on it, which means, oopsie, I am still in rotate. There we go. Oh, and by the way, if you are in rotate and it gets kind of off kilter and you can't quite get it exactly, if you hold down shift, it'll snap it. So that's easier. All right. So right now, yeah, this background layer, it's got a little lock on it, but I can still draw on it. So it's not locked because, it's the background. Um, but you can unlock it by double tapping. So normally I just unlock the bottom layer because I use all my layers. So um, anyway, all right. So now if I have this and I hit this lock icon, I shouldn't be able to draw on my screen. Okay. So as an example, let me, if I take a look at this, get rid of my things there. All right. If I go back through here and let's say, all right, let's say I'm accidentally on this layer, right? And I have my brush on and I'm just mindlessly, oops. Okay, well, I apparently have it covered. All right, that'll be a good one to destroy. All right, so let's say, I accidentally am on this layer and I'm just mindlessly going through here. See, I've got all these layer blending modes. Hold on a sec. Let me take some of these out so we can. All right. That's some of the inks. All right. Let's use that one as an example, okay? Um, so let's say I'm just mindlessly going along and, I'm doing my thing and um, I end up accidentally drawing on that layer, right? Well, now I just completely train wrecked my piece, right? So to avoid that, that's where you can lock a layer. So now if I go in here, I can't do anything. Now, maybe you don't want to lock every single layer, which, like I said, we'll talk about this for my class in class. But like I've got an inks group, a colors group, okay? If I really want to make sure that those are protected, I can lock uh, the entire layer stack. Okay, so now if I go into any of these and try to do something I shouldn't, Photoshop's going to tell me, hey, dude, don't do that. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit about locking layers, but let me do 11 by 17. There we go. All right. So to make a new layer, all I'm going to do is go down here to the very bottom. And in the very bottom right is a little trash can. And then next to that, you'll see this icon with a little plus sign in it. So you can hit that. And now I can uh, do stuff on that layer. Okay. Um, so the next thing we talked about zooming in and out. We talked about panning. We talked about rotating, creating a file, layers palette, locking the layer, uh, trash can, and new layer. We'll be getting into all these other effects and masks and adjustment layers and grouping and all that later. All right. So just to get people rolling, actually doing things, this is where we talk about the tools over here on the side. So let's say I draw something on a layer, right? But maybe I don't want this here. I want it up here. Okay. I can take this move, and that's what this does. It moves the elements on a layer. Okay. So let's say oh, I don't know. I'm working on like some kind of group shot, right? So maybe I've got dude number one standing here. So this is just a basic stick figure layout, because why why fully render something when you don't have to? So maybe something like that. Okay. So maybe it's a group shot, right? So I've got this guy on the first layer, right? And then I make um, another layer. Maybe this is a much bigger character, like a Venom or a uh, Hulk or something, right? So maybe he's back here. And I know I should be drawing this as a stick figure, but so I'm just trying to quickly get this in here. Now, this other character is kind of getting cut off, which if I want to reposition these characters later and they were all drawn on the same all drawn on the same layer, then this might not work out so well. And I made his legs too short. So this is where having everybody on separate layers can be an advantage. So now I could take that move tool and maybe I could reposition this guy to maybe be right here. And then I can take this guy maybe right here and go back and work on this composition a little bit better. So he's just back here chilling. So now I've actually got enough room for this guy to take up space. Of course, his feet probably take up the whole page, but all right. I just went straight Rob Liefeld with those feet. Hide it behind a rock. All right. So what happens when I want to add, somebody else in here? Well, super easy. Let's say the editor, they want 3 characters on here instead of just the 2. I'm getting a little carried away with this guy. All right. Either way. All right. So let's say, I need a 3rd character in here. Well, I can always take this, and maybe he was the wrong scale. Maybe he should be a little bit smaller. All right. So there's that. And then I can add another layer, and let's say this other character is, yeah, let's do something like, all right, so this guy, I can tell already I'm not going to have enough room to do the pose that I wanted. So once again, that's where that move tool kind of comes in. So I can take this guy, I can make him maybe a little bit smaller. Put him, I don't know, maybe right about there. Go back to the brush, which we'll go over the brush tools here in a second. All right, yeah, I'm being kind of quiet, but you ever get lost in thought? Um, all right, so I'm not going to draw this whole thing out, but maybe he's waving. All right, so obviously, if you need to move characters around and recompose things, like, I could put this guy over here and that guy there and that one there if I wanted to, right? I mean, obviously it's not great that way, but hey. So if you need to delete a layer, you just hit the little trash can. All right. So that's how we move things around. And then selections. So selections, let me, all right. So selections, right? Let's say I've got, I don't know. Hold on. I'm making this blob into something. All right. Absolute train wreck. But let's say you had to get around this. Like maybe, you want to get rid of these little things up here or this back here, right? Okay. Now you can make a box selection. Okay. So what that does is it isolates that object from anything else. Okay. So if I hit Q, I'm going to see the mask. So basically what we're doing is just masking off an area. So right now, if I go to my brush and I go outside here, I can't draw outside of that, but inside of it I can. Well, I'm in white. Haha. All right. Inside of it I can, outside of it I can't. See that? All right. And you can hit Control D to deselect. And then we've also got the elliptical selection. Single row and single column, never found a use for them. So basically just stick with rectangular and elliptical. Elliptical, exactly what it says. It's a circle. Okay. Now you can see that's an ellipse, not a circle. But if I wanted to keep this an exact circle, I'm going to tap, hold down Shift and Alt, and then I get a perfect circle. So let's say I need some perfect circles for something I'm working on. Well, there you go. Do your circular selection, Shift and Alt. And then you can hold down Shift and Alt. This is going to be a little bit off, but it's fine. All right. So if I want to add to this selection, right? Well, you know what? Actually, that's a little bit off. So what if I want to adjust that selection, right? I can go up here, go to select, and modify. Nope, not modify. Transform. And then I just hit the arrow keys to get that centered up just a little bit better. All right. Now, if I want to add to this selection, okay, I can hit Shift, and that will let me add a selection to this. But I want to keep it constrained to a perfect circle, so I'm going to go Shift and Alt. And well, nope, that one did not work. So what I like to do is select inverse. There it is. I'm so used to using the shortcut, I rarely ever use the invert. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to go select, transform selection. Oops, what the heck did it do? There we go. Control Shift I is inverse. So if I go transform selection now and hold down Alt, nope. Why Photoshop is being weird, I do not know. Okay, Shift and Alt. What the heck, dude? All right, there we go. So what I'm going to do is just enlarge that, and then well, that's an opportunity to show you guys something else. All right, I'm going to reduce that just a little. All right, and then I'll recenter this just a little bit. Okay. So another thing you can do with a selection is go to Edit and Stroke. And I'm going to go center on that one. Yeah, that didn't work at 10 pixels. Stroke Let's go 50. Not quite enough. All right. So what I want to do is the inside of the selection. There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right. So if you need perfect circles, that's a good way to get that done. Why does that look wobbly to me? Something looks weird. I don't know. Oh, the line weight. All right. Anyway, um, yeah. Next tool, marquee or lasso. Sorry, polygonal lasso. Okay. Now, by default, it's just the normal lasso. So let's say I wanted to cut some weird shape into that. So I can do that. Um, Actually, one of the ways I kind of use that is let's say I'm doing like a character's hair. All right, just real quick there. Doesn't have to be great. All right, so let's say I'm doing a character's hair, which I would black this in a lot better than what it is right now. I could take that lasso and let's say, yeah, there's like the shine of the flip over or whatever. So I'm gonna go here. Or the part in the hair, that's what it's called. So I can do something like that and you know. So it's a quick way to kind of cut in some shapes. But anyway, so I'm throwing my Wacom pin. Um, so there's the regular lasso. And then there's the polygonal lasso, which will let you do stuff like this, which is straight lines. So point to point. And it did not take it. I do not know why. One more time for the audience. There we go. And remember, you can always hit Q to see what's masked and what's not. So if I wanted to make this cube a little better, now that that's masked off, I can go like this, and I can go Control Shift I. Go to the eraser, clean that up. And then Control Shift I again, so that way I can draw inside of it, right? And if I want to clean this up, well, I want to add those straight lines back in, but how do we do straight lines? Well, we haven't got to the brush tool yet, but since I'm at this juncture, if you hit B, you will get the brush tool. We'll go back over this in a minute. But if I want to make a straight line, all I have to do is tap or left click, hold down Shift, and still drawing in black. Thank you very much. Shift, hold down Shift, and there we go. I got a straight line. Okay. Now, obviously, this is running at an angle, right? So, how do I do that? Okay, well, I'm going to tap on that angle, and then I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to tap where I want that endpoint to be. And I can tap back and forth to kind of make that line a little bit more thick. And then I can tap there and there. Right? And then I can just clean that up. Right? So lots of different ways to do pretty much anything in this thing. I'm going to get rid of that ugly thing. Or maybe I'm not, because I have to hit Control D because it was still masked. All right. Now we're getting into some more stuff here. Oh, another thing you can do with the polygonal lasso. Okay, let's say you wanted to make a star shape. You could tap, tap, tap there, tap there, tap there, tap there. Now you got a star, right? So remember, there's like a million different ways to do anything in Photoshop. So, all right. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we talked about the move. We talked about those selections. Oh, the other one, we talked about the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso. Magnetic lasso is pretty cool because it actually like auto detects the edges of objects. So all I had to do was just drag around that. And now you'll see that that section is masked off because the magnetic lasso kind of sticks to it. That's all I'm going to say about that for right this second. All right. Magic wand, something you will definitely use. That's just for making selections too. So you can see I got that selected. Now, if I want to add to that selection, I can hold Shift and tap some more. And hit Q. Now you can see all those areas are masked or unmasked. So if it's covered in red, it's masked. If it's white, then I can still draw in that area. Which for some cases, that may be what you want. But for right now, it's not. Oh, crop tool. That's kind of obvious. Whatever your selection is, it's just going to crop it down to that. So it would have cropped my entire canvas. We'll talk more about cropping later. This one is slices, I believe. Yeah, that's all for like web design, which I do not do. I deleted it. All right. We'll talk about that color picker here in a second because there's only like maybe one or two things that I'm going to cover yet, and then that will get to the basics, basically. All right. So brush tool, that's going to be the most important one. So if you want to get to the brush tool, hit B, brush. Hit E, eraser. Okay, I just took a bite out of my shield. All right. So the brush, lots of options. Now, if you are using a mouse, you will not be able to do this. Okay? You need a graphics tablet. Like if you're trying to do illustration of any sort on a computer and don't have a graphics tablet, you're going to have a hard time. And that eraser's too big. There we go. All right. So the brush. Now you may have noticed that I've been changing my brush size, right? Now you can do that a few different ways. You can go up here, change the size of your brush to a very specific pixel range. Like maybe I want this to be 33 pixels exactly. Okay, I can do that. Or I can right click and that's going to bring up this little option menu. Okay, this will allow me to change the size and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. Okay, so right now that's the size of my brush. Okay, now because I'm using a graphics tablet, I can go super crazy thin to nice and thick. Okay, all depends on your settings, which with a mouse, like I said, with a mouse, going to be a bad day. All right, so let's right click. Now, here's another feature, hardness. You could tell that the brush that I was using previously had a very hard edge. Now, this is more like an airbrush, okay? So if I want to define this edge, right, I could switch the hardness back, and now, we get that. So there's that. And then, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go hard round. Now, I have no pressure sensitivity because these are very limited settings. But let's say I'm doing like calligraphy or whatever, right? Maybe I don't want the pressure sensitivity. I want it to be a fixed line width, and that's it. So I'm going to go 50 pixel line width. Now, if I want to turn this into like a chiseled uh, calligraphy marker, I can flatten that tip, and I can also adjust the angle, right? So now this thing, now, it's more like doing calligraphy kind of deal. So let's do something like, I don't know. I don't really do calligraphy, but hey, it is what it is. Um, but that's how you can modify the brush from that menu anyway. So if you right click, you're going to get some very basic settings. Okay. Now, if I go up here to this little folder, though, that's where all the good brush options are. So I can go in here and do the same kind of thing. Pick whatever brush I want to use or modify. Okay. Right now I've just got a hard round. I could change the tip shape, which I'm not going to. So I'm going to go to Shape Dynamics, and then under Size Jitter, I want to turn pin pressure on, which is going to let me do that super thin to thick, which lets me do some nice ink lines. Okay. And then all of these options will set up different things. So like size jitter, maybe you want it more of a rough kind of brush look. So I can even adjust the spacing of the brush a little bit. So now I get kind of a rougher, the ink is almost bleeding kind of thing. Just makes it a little more messy. So it all depends on the look that you're going for. But with the pin pressure turned on and size jitter at 0, you just get these real nice lines. And then minimum diameter, you can also, set it so maybe I don't, like right now, if I press extremely light, I get a very, very, very light line. Okay. Maybe I don't want it to be able to go quite that thin. I can set the minimum diameter, and now I'm pressing the same. Uh, I'm pressing the same amount, but I'm not able to get um, as thin of a line. But I can still get super thick. But that is my uh, smallest line that I can make. Where now I can go ultra thin if I want to. Okay. Um, Angle jitter, basically how we were changing the brush tip. You're going to get a little bit of a different angle. It's a little more obvious depending on how you set up the brush. All right. Let's go. Oh, the roundness also will give you kind of uh, a messier line. So let me enlarge this a little bit. See how there's like a little bit of an edge to it? A little bit messier. But I could talk about modifying brushes all day long. All right. So scattering is also a cool feature. Um, like if you're trying to do like Kirby dots. So this works really well with spacing. And then spread that apart, and you should get something like that. That's also pressure sensitive. So, um, well, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to bring those back. So, yeah, say you're doing some kind of cosmic explosion kind of deal. And then you could go back into that by switching it to white. A little bit big on that one. So instant Kirby dots, basically, with way less effort. Jack Kirby would slap me for shortcutting it like this, but old Jack ain't here, and I am. So my way or the highway. All right. We will talk about all those other functions later because I don't want people getting confused. So for now, I'm going to take the spacing back. Hard round, I'm going to go, you know what, actually I'm going to use a soft round, sorry. And I want that set to pin pressure. Yep, there we go. All right, so we don't need the brush options anymore. All right, now talking about brushes. I showed you how to modify a brush by going into the settings there, or uh, by right clicking, okay? Now don't worry about the brush mode up here, the layer mode of the brush. Don't worry about that for right now. Okay, I'll show you one quick trick. Basically, multiply will ignore white. So if I switch this to red, this should work. Oh wait, it ignores black. Sorry, my bad. I think it's overlay that ignores white. Where did it go? Honestly, kids, half the time I'm just creating artwork. I don't even pay attention to uh, what setting I'm using half the time. Let's go. Is it screen? Might be screen. No, not screen. Well, anyway, your different brush modes do different things. Okay? But it's like the layer modes, which I will teach you later. But keep it in normal. All right? Now, opacity is going to be also very important. So, obviously, right now, that's 100% opacity. And also red, which I don't want. There we go. Okay. So, 100% opacity, which means you can't see through it. Okay. Now, if I want to change this, let's say I only want 10% opacity, right? And you can see that that's much, much lighter, right? Or maybe I want 50%, right? For a mid-tone gray. And then I can get it darker and darker as I go. Okay? The quick way to change your opacity, okay, which you could go up here and use the slider, which is kind of not nearly as much fun. Or you can use the number keys. So let me show you that. All right, so let's say I've got my brush. Here it is, 100%. Okay, now maybe I want to take it down to 90%. I hit 9. Maybe 80%. I hit 8. And then 70%, 7. And then 60%, 60. Or 6. And then 5. And then 4. And you'll see these numbers changing right here. 3 and 2 and 1, which is 10%. Okay? So But remember, if you brush over again, it multiplies on top. Okay? So when you're using those lower opacity uh, settings, okay? Like if I wanted to cover this entire background all in that 10% gray, you know what? Actually, I'll use a 30% uh, just for the sake of it showing up on screen and all that. All right, so let's say, sorry, I erased part of my cube that I'm gonna need. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's say I want to fill in this entire background with a 30% gray. I'm gonna hit 3, and then as soon as I tap with my pen, I can't let go. I just need to keep moving. Now I can cross over lines that I've already laid down, but uh, if I lift up on my uh, mouse button or on my tablet, you'll see what's going to happen here in a second. You know what? Actually, I'll just go ahead and fill that in. So you can see it's a very even tone, right? But I missed the very bottom, right? So now I'm starting again. Now watch when I get up here to the top. I'm going to do the same thing I did here, down here. I'm going to tap and hold, and I'm going to keep brushing. Now you'll see I can go over the strokes that I already laid down here, no problem. But when I get to the top, you see that? Now it overlaps. So be careful with your opacity settings. Okay. So now I'll show you a little bit how to kind of use the opacity settings to your advantage. So one thing I can do too is to get rid of this, I can dial it back by adding white. So if I just tap and hold and kind of do that, yes, I still have an ugly mark there, but I can go back to black and I can lower this down to say maybe 10%. And that did not help. But point is, you can blend these out and get it nice. So I'm actually just going to paint this so it looks like it's kind of coming towards us. That's the background. All right. So we'll give that shield a little bit of a shadow down below. And we'll talk more about blending here in a second. So what I'm doing is I'm using that opacity to my advantage, okay? Now, the next thing is I've got that soft brush. How do I blend uh, tones together, right? So I'm going to take this down to 10%. And I'm kind of feathering out that edge here a little bit. Now, what if I want to clean this up or add a little bit more of this background color into here? This is where the color picker that I told you about was going to come into play. So if I hit Alt, um, if I hit Alt, I can select that color. There we go. I can select that color and I can use that to blend. Okay. So you can see that ugliness there on the edge. I kind of blended it out. Okay. And then a shadow should kind of trail off as it gets farther away from the object. And obviously this shadow is not plotted correctly, but it is what it is for right now. So then I could switch this back to black very easily. Hold Alt, tap on black. And then I can refine this a little bit more. And I'm still only at 10% opacity. So I can just kind of keep building this up. And toning it back as I need to by hitting Alt and pick the next tone I want to blend into. And if you're not quite blending it as fast as you would like, you can always change the opacity and maybe go, 20 or whatever works for you, you know? So there I've got a 20%. Now I'm just going to kind of blend in between a little bit. And these are not the uh, best blends, but whatever. So, based on what I've already showed you, you could go down here, hold Alt, get some black maybe. Maybe you want to make this so it's kind of looking a little more round. And you can always go in there and, like I said, use the opacity to your advantage. Like that may have been a little too much. Not sure. But that's how you can take a very basic shape, add form to it. Now, like I said, this is not rendered very well at all, but it is what it is. So, let's say this side here is facing the light, right? So maybe this is a lighter gray. And obviously uh, this other side is in darkness right there, but it's not going to be completely dark, right? So maybe I pick another uh, slightly darker gray right here. And then I'm going to grab that and maybe a very light gray that's almost the color of the background, but still lighter than this other face right here. And now you can see the black really stands out because, this is rendered different. So, I could take, anytime you need to change your colors, if you hit D, that will bring you to the default colors. If you hit X, that will switch between your foreground and background color. And you can tap on that color square to open the color picker window anytime you want. So, like right now, I've got red and blue. I hit D, I get back to black. And then if I want to switch between black and white, I just keep hitting X. So here, if I go maybe 20%, I'm on white right now. So I can add a bit of indication, like, where that light is kind of coming from. It's more from the front than the side, but so I kind of want to blend that out just a little bit. And then I'm going to go 10% and white. I'm going to kind of blend it from this edge here, like going this way, because the light's kind of coming from over here. And obviously, if you're, painting a metal cube, it's going to be different than plastic or whatever. But either way, hopefully you can see, playing with the opacity is going to be your friend. And then, hold down Alt, and that's going to let you blend between colors. So that way things kind of are a little bit smoother, blend better. Okay. Close enough. Works for me. Good enough for government work. All right. So the thing that, uh, like I said, this was mainly for my actual class. So you guys should all be caught up on everything we covered in class so far. Oh, the homework thing. So doing a gradient, okay? All you're going to do is make a rectangular selection, okay? Hit B, go to your brush, hit 0 so it's 100%. Hit D so you're in black. And then down here at the bottom, make sure you're in a soft brush too. So I'm going to go black up to about there. And then I'm going to hit 9. And I'm going to add in a strip of 90%. And then 8. Add in some 80%. And then 70. And you should be able to see the banding between the colors at this stage. So go 60. And then 50. 40. 30. 20. That's wrong. So that's 30, then 20. And then 10. And then white. Okay. So you should see the banding between colors right now. Then what I do is I usually go either 20% or 30%. Okay. And then I'm going to hit Control Plus. And then I'm going to hit Alt and just blend. Blend until I don't see those lines anymore. So I'm going to hit Alt, maybe bring the 90% down a little into that area. And then I'll hit spacebar. We'll go Alt, blend between that. Alt. And if you start to see that you're getting a little bit of banding at 20%, then just kick it down to 10. And then you can always try to iron it out that way. And because we have this as a selection, everything else outside of that strip is masked off. Now this one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because it's so distinct of a line in between there. But even then, not really that bad. And really, like, yeah, there's a little bit of brush streakiness to it, right? But um, it's blended, right? Now, for the most part, you want your paintings to have a little bit of um, variance to them. You want to see some brush strokes, you know? You don't want anything all cold and digital. So, like I said, the homework was to make a gradient. And then if you choose, you can also go in, make a couple shapes. So maybe you make a sphere, and then using the same exact, techniques. So I'm just going to hit D, and then hit B, go 100%. Maybe I'll go black first, and then I'll add the white into it. So I would just start with like a 10% gray and start making that. look round. And remember, if you remove your brush from the canvas, your strokes will overlap and build up that tone. Okay? So you may or may not want that. So be careful. Um, just make sure that you're nice, consistent strokes. And pay attention to lighting. Because there's always some bounce light that bounces back up on the bottom of an object. Um, and you've got the core shadow. So, and when you have that mask there, like you can be a little bit bigger um, on your brush size. So in this case, it kind of got a little bit away from me. So I'm going to go a little lighter and then bring the darks back into it. Just so I can smooth everything out a little bit better. All right, switch it back to white. Give it a little bit of a highlight up there. Maybe bring that around a little. A little bit of bounce light. So then I can hit Control Shift I to invert it, and I can add a little shadow down here, which will connect it to the ground or have it floating above it. Just give it a little three-dimensionality, you know. Hit Control D to deselect. And since that kind of looks like a bowling ball anyway, let me actually just finish this off with making it a bowling ball. So and I know you're going to say, but those holes aren't um, painted. They're just black. Yeah, well, they will be here in a second. Because what I'm going to do is another, I don't like where that hole's at. I'm just going to add that one right here. Looks a little bit better. All right. So these being completely black, I can actually go here to my magic wand and change my tolerance. Hold down shift, select those guys, and now you can see that those are unprotected, right? So my light source is coming from over here. So I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to go white. Did not want 100% white. I'm going to go maybe 30%. All right. So, yeah, I think that'll do. I'll add a little bit of extra white highlight up there, I guess. Maybe not. Let's go 30%. So something like that. That doesn't look so great. But anyway, long day. But that should be all the basics. Hopefully this is all recorded because I really don't want to have to record it again. Uh, but anyway, um, for anybody watching this or anybody that watches this later, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and ask questions. So, wow, that was an hour and 44 minutes. Alrighty. Um, so anyway, see you next time, I guess.